friends, this is Srinivas Raila. Welcome to our favorite channel Sneaky Biotubes. In previous video, we discussed digestion in mouth. To continue, in this video, I would like to discuss digestion in stomach. Come, usually when we have the food, so the food is digested by the process of two. One is mechanical, another one is chemical. What is mechanical process? If the food materials are converted into complex to simple physically, that is called mechanical process. If the same food materials converted from complex to simple by action of chemicals, that is called chemical process. So already we learned the mechanical process happens in the mouth. When we chew the food by teeth, it is a mechanical process. By chewing food, the food converted into semi-solid material is called bolus. Of course, chemical process also takes place in mouth because when salivary amylase act on the food substances, then these food substances converted into dextrins and maltose sugars. So, along with all these, this semi-solid material called as bolus. This bolus usually moves through the esophagus and enters into the stomach. In this stomach, this process of bolus, what will happen, how this bolus converted complex to simple, let us study. Before to study about the digestion in stomach, we should have idea on structure of stomach. The stomach usually situated or located in the abdominal cavity. Especially it is located left side of abdominal cavity. It has three parts. This part is called cardiac stomach, you know well, and the middle part is called fundus or fundic part, and this part usually known as pyloric stomach or pyloric part of the stomach. Right? And inside, if you see inside, it has 4 layers. If you cut the stomach, it has 4 layers. The outer layer is called serosa. What is the outer layer of the stomach? Is called serosa. And next layer is called muscular layer. And next layer is called submucosa. The innermost layer of stomach is called mucosa. Stomach internal గా చూసుకుంటే 4 layers తో తయారై ఉంటుంది. అవుటర్ లేయర్ ని మనము సెరోసా అని పిలుస్తాము. నెక్స్ట్ లేయర్ని మస్కులర్ లేయర్ అని పిలుస్తాము. తర్వాత లేయర్ని సబ్ మ్యూకోజా అని పిలుస్తాము. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ ఇన్నర్ లేయర్ని మ్యూకోజా అని పిలుస్తాము. దిస్ ఇన్నర్ లేయర్ హ్యాస్ రిడ్జెస్, grooves or folds which are formed from this mucosa. This is called rugae. What do you call this? Rugae. At the same time, this stomach is made up of circular muscles, at the same time longitudinal muscles. What are the function of these circular and longitudinal muscles? Already the food bolus will enter into the stomach. No, this food to be churned. How it is churned? By the action of muscular and longitudinal muscles. These longitudinal muscles and muscular muscles usually churn the food or produce peristaltic movements. By these peristaltic movements, this food is churned here. So the same process which happen in the mouth, that process is called, I told you already, mechanical process. The churning of food is called mechanical process, already has been done here. So the food little bit converted into complex to simple. But this mechanical process will not help for the full of digestion. The chemical process also required to convert these complex molecules into simple molecules. How does it happen? What are the glands are participated? What are the chemicals are participated for full digestion of proteins in this stomach? Let us study. Usually, inner layer of the stomach, this inner layer of the stomach has glands. Those glands are called gastric glands. What do you call those glands? Those glands are called gastric glands. So, and come here inside, especially these gastric glands are located inner layer of mucosa. If you come and see, if we cut the part of it, it looks like it. So it's a mucosa, submucosa and muscular and serosa. Here I am mentioning only the part of the mucosa. In mucosa, you may identify the cells. What are the glands? These are called the gastric glands are located, especially inner layer of this stomach. These gastric glands are divided into three. How many types? Three types based on the location. The gastric glands which are located cardiac part of the stomach internally, those are called cardiac gastric glands. What do you call this? Cardiac gastric glands. These are located the part of cardiac stomach. And next one is pyloric gastric glands. Those are located in pyloric part of the stomach. This is the pyloric stomach, what we have learned in previous classes. The glands or the cells that are present in this pyloric part of the stomach, those are called pyloric gastric glands. What do you call those? Pyloric gastric glands. These cardiac gastric glands and pyloric gastric glands secrete a liquid portion is called mucus. What do you call the portion or what is the liquid? That is called mucus. What is the function of the mucus? This mucus protects inner layer of the stomach from the acids and enzymes. These acids and enzymes very powerful. If there is no any mucus, what will happen? The inner layer, the mucosa or epithelial layer may be affected by the acids or enzymes. So, this mucus which is secreted or released from these cardiac gastric glands and pyloric gastric glands protect the layer and inner layer of the stomach. And come here, next one is fundic gastric glands. The next glands are fundic gastric glands. These fundic gastric glands, there are three types. How many types I mentioned here? Three types. One is gymnogenic or chief fundic gastric glands and parietal or oxyntic cells. At the same time, third one, mucus neck cells. First one, gymnogenic cells. Second one, parietal cells. Third one, mucus neck cells. So, if you observe the structure of the gastric gland, then these are the mucus neck cells. Okay, and these are the parietal cells. And third one, chief cells. What are the main function of these three cells? Three kinds of cells. These three kinds of cells secrete chemicals which are involved in the digestion. How these chemicals are secreted? How these chemicals are secreted? Usually, whenever you think about the food, whenever you get the smell of the food, then usually endocrinal system is activated. You learn about the endocrinal system in a lesson, especially endocrine system, so chemical coordination. About especially one hormone, that is gastrin. What is the hormone? That is gastrin. If the food will enter into the stomach, or if you listen about the food, if you get a smell, then during this time, usually this gastric mucosa means the inner layer of this stomach. Okay, secrete. This gastric mucosa has specialized cells called G cells. What do you call these cells? G cells. G cells in the sense gastrin cells. G cells means gastrin cells. These gastrin cells acted or affected by this external stimuli of the smell or food, at the same time internal stimuli of the proteins that present in this stomach. So this one is affected, this G cells secrete a hormone is called gastrin. What is the hormone? This is called gastrin. This gastrin usually affect the zymogenic cells, at the same time parietal cells. Here I would like to mention that two types of cell of funtic cells are affected by this hormone. It is not enzyme, it is hormone which affect zymogenic cells or chief cells, at the same time parietal cells or oxyntic cells. So when the zymogenic cells are affected, this zymogenic cell secrete an enzyme, that is pepsinogen. What's the enzyme? Pepsinogen. Usually we know as zymogen because secreted from the zymogenic cells. Usually this pepsinogen is in inactive condition. What's it? Inactive condition. Inactive means it does not act on food substances that convert into complex to simple. Inactive లో ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి దీన్ని జన్ అనే పదాన్ని చేర్చి పెప్సినోజన్ గా చెప్తారు. ఈ పెప్సినోజన్ అనేది కాంప్లెక్స్ మాలిక్యూల్స్ ని సింపుల్ మాలిక్యూల్స్ గా మార్చుకోలేదు. బట్ ఇట్ షుడ్ బి యాక్టివేటెడ్. హౌ డస్ ఇట్? How it would be activated? Again, there is a solution. So already this gastrin act on the parietal cells now. These parietal cells secrete another chemical. It's a acid, that is HCl. What is the acid? HCl. This HCl, from HCl, H plus ions activate the or affect the pepsinogen. When the pepsinogen affected by the H plus ions of the HCl, this pepsinogen is converted into active pepsin. This pepsinogen converted into active pepsin. Now this pepsin is activated. When it is activated, then by the action of HCl, pepsinogen converted into pepsin, it is active enzyme which act on proteins, then these proteins are converted into peptides. How these are converted? Peptides. So the larger molecules of proteins are converted into peptides by the action of pepsin. This is one enzyme. And another enzyme is renin, also secreted from the zymogenic glands. Usually this renin secreted in infants or childs or toddlers. ఇది రెనిన్ అనేది చిన్న పిల్లల్లో లేదా టాడ్లర్స్ అంటే చక్కగా బుడి నడకలు నడుస్తూ ఉంటారు, అలాంటి వాళ్ళు సెక్రీట్ అవుతూ ఉంటుంది. దిస్ రెనిన్ యూజువల్లీ సెక్రీటెడ్ in children, at the same time toddlers, not in adults. When we grow as elders, the secretion of the renin may be stopped. But when we are in child stage and toddler stage, this renin has a function that curdling of milk. పిల్లలు తీసుకునే మిల్క్ ని curdling చేస్తుంది. That is the main function of this renin. Okay, come here. This parietal cells also secreted the HCl. No? HCl has one function. I told you that this HCl activate the pepsinogen, convert it to pepsin. Then other function also has the HCl. It kills the bacteria. It also kills the bacteria. Whenever you take the food, along with the food, we may get the bacteria. If this bacteria will enter into the cells, we may get the problem. That is the reason it should be destroyed. So, this HCl takes that responsibility. This HCl kills the bacteria. This is another function. And also responsible for this HCl also participated to convert the proteins complex to simple. This is main function of HCl. Next cells, mucus neck cells. This mucus neck cells, usually this near to the pit of the layer of the stomach. This mucus neck cells secrete liquid is called mucus, like cardiac cells and pyloric cells. What is the main function of the mucus? Already I mentioned you. This mucus protect from the acids and enzymes to inner layer of the stomach. Inner layer of the stomach is very sensitive. It is made up of epithelial cells. It is very one lining. It is very thin. Okay, if it is affected, the digestion process may be affected. So that is the reason this mucus usually formed as a line on the inner layer of the stomach and protect from the HCl, at the same time other enzymes that are present in the gastric juice. Right. So these are the functions of these three cells. So here I mentioned that when the food comes here, so some enzymes are released, pepsin, renin, HCl, etc. Here pepsin take a main role that convert the proteins into peptides. Already carbohydrates are digested in the stomach a little. Now proteins are digested. Okay, so when the food materials are digested from complex to simple, then this material which is formed as simple material is called chyme. What do you call this material? Is called chyme. This chyme usually enters into the next part of the stomach, first part of the small intestine, that is called duodenum. What do you call that? That is called duodenum. When this chyme will enter into the duodenum, the next reactions are going to be started to digest the food materials, to convert these food materials very simple for absorbing by the body. Do you know only one enzyme is secreted from the stomach which act on the proteins that convert into complex to simple? Here carbohydrates are not affected in stomach. Why carbohydrates are not affected? Because there is no any enzyme that convert the carbohydrates to simple, complex to simple. Only an enzyme is secreted, that is pepsin, released from the stomach, that act on the proteins converted into peptides. I would like to share one more point here. Usually this pepsin first discovered by Theodore Swan. Who discovered? Theodore Swan. Pepsin is a word of Greek pepsis. It is derived from Greek pepsis. Here pepsin means digest. Pepsin first discovered by Theodore Swan in 1836. Which year? In 1836. This is digestion of food in stomach. If you like my video, share, subscribe and support me. Thank you very much to you all.